Welcome back. This is Dr. Sutton again, Dr. Frank Sutton of the American Pulmonary Medicine Institute. With this is the session number 1. We'll call this over the next 10 to 12 minutes. I'd like to review with you kind of what's happened to the smoking industry, to smokers in the United States over the past 20, 30 years, and where we go from here, why things are getting better for most. There's an awful lot of information about secondhand, even third-hand smoke now. We know that a few years ago, like 2015, there were 480,000 deaths attributable to cigarette smoking. 480,000. Now, there are many forms of tobacco use, from snuff to oral forms, other oral forms of snus, and just chewing tobacco. There's obviously vaping now. There's cigars. The young people are into these hookah pipes where they smoke both marijuana and cigarette products, nicotine products. So there are a lot, but the majority, the grand majority, is back to cigarettes and the cigarette industry. And the cigarette industry has manipulated nicotine levels many times to addict people. They know that you have these receptors we spoke about in your central nervous system that are upregulated, increase in number, so that within, really it's a circulation time. When you put a cigarette in your mouth and begin to smoke it, it's absorbed across the mucous membranes into the blood, and it circulates within 11 to 13 seconds. It hits the brain, and you get those nicotinic receptors are stimulated, and about 5 or 6 mediators, chemicals that your brain has that improve mood and give you a sensation of pleasure or of stimulation, a mood lifting effect, are stimulated, and you get that buzz. 11 to 13 seconds. That's really quick to deliver a drug right to the nervous system. And so they manipulate those levels to keep you addicted. And they do things like add menthol, and make the holes in the filter larger so that it's easier to draw, so that you can really get a good draw because the holes are larger in the filter. And then they add menthol so it kind of soothes your throat so that the temperature that's over 200 degrees that you're inhaling doesn't burn, doesn't feel as if it burns as much. Now it's doing its damage, but they do everything to keep you using their product. So 2015, 480,000 plus deaths. Well, what about 1965? Let's go back there. And let me tell you that 42% of the adults in America smoked or had smoked at some time. Were active smokers or just had quit. 42%. Well, by about 2011, it was down to like 19 to 20%. And then just a couple of years ago, the latest figures we have in Alabama, about 15% adults in Alabama still continue to use cigarettes. And you know, of course, the cost has escalated and information has increased. And now there are certain socioeconomic groups that are still plagued with cigarette smoking and still introduce them by being smokers, like in a family. If 2 parents smoke, their children are much more likely to smoke. And so people with mental health still feel stressed all the time, are more likely as a group of people to smoke. People who live in certain states where the industry of raising tobacco is a large part of their GDP, their gross domestic product. States like West Virginia, Kentucky, where tobacco is grown, there may be 22 to 25% of adults in those states that still smoke. So where you're located, what consumers' products are grown, whether or not you have some stressful job, mental health with the stress of being treated, maybe even hospitalized recurrently. If you go on for instance, a psychiatric ward, we all know that a lot of those people, part of their privilege is in order to enjoy a cigarette, when really they should be getting a course in smoking cessation, because, as we'll see today, It's a lie that you're actually being relaxed by having a smoke, although it feels that way. And I realize that I can't convince you that it doesn't give you a lift and doesn't make you feel better, because it does and has, because of the chemical stimulation. But let's look at some of the reasons and some of the times that you smoke, and I'm going to show you a slide now and ask you to just check it off, your own little personal inventory. Here are some times that you are more likely to smoke, just times of the day. And we're going to do this in this first session so that you will see how this is such a part of who you are and what you do. Okay, now, question number one is the first thing in the morning. If before breakfast, when your feet kind of hit the floor, do you have to have a cigarette? Now, remember, you've likely withdrawn for a number of hours overnight. You may have slept 6.5, 7.5 hours, and your nicotine levels have fallen, so you have an urge to smoke. And do you smoke early in the morning before you have, either with your first cup of coffee or even before that, and certainly before breakfast, before a meal? That's a real risk factor. That's you really are addicted. Usually those are pack plus smokers. Pack and a half, 2 packs a day smokers have to have a cigarette first thing. So number one. Number two, how about with meals? Is that just a part of who you are, that when you have a meal, you end it with maybe a cup of coffee and a cigarette, and that's kind of caps off the meal. For you, that's your dessert. And number three, you may have found out that you actually, when you became a smoker, you dropped some weight, and in the times that you've tried to quit, you gained a couple of pounds pretty quickly. So you may use cigarette smoking as a weight loss control, and some people do. And some people fear weight gain when they stop smoking, so that's why some, after they gain, they stop for a period of several months, gain 8 to 10 pounds, and just because of that, go back smoking to get their weight down. That's a poor reason once it's reasoned out, because the reason you're losing weight is you have a suppression of your appetite, which means that a lot of smokers, of course, have some nutritional deficiencies because they eat poorly. And so, believe me, you can weigh 8 to 10 pounds more than you do as a current smoker and be healthier than if you were at your smoking weight and continue to smoke. You see what I mean? You'll be healthier weighing a little more. But part of what we'll teach you is that exercise and changing what you have been eating a bit are very important. Okay, so we have first thing in the morning, we have meals, we have stress. Do you know that at a certain time in the week, maybe on Wednesdays, you have a large meeting at your corporation, and you're going to be grilled by the boss, or you're a teacher and your students are unruly, and you can't wait to get out of class and have a cigarette, because it does tend to make you feel as if you're relieved, you're less stressful. So do you have a stressful situation, occupation? Are you eating a meal? Are you just getting up? Or is there a time of maximal enjoyment of an activity like NASCAR racing, or Auburn or Alabama football, or Tennessee football, wherever you're from? Maybe you'll get together with a group of people to watch something that's enjoyable, and since you associate a cigarette with pleasure and enjoyment and relaxation, that's when you have it. So you have to examine, and part of knowing that these times will set you up and make it easier for you to smoke means that as you stop, you're going to have to avoid those times for a while until you're strong enough that if those around you are smoking, either they do it somewhere else, not while you're watching your favorite activity, and usually they'll respect you if you request that they not do it. So we'll talk about pre-planning so that you won't. So you see, what I'm doing is just using these usual life occurring situations, times, activities that we all will have to do. We have to eat, we have to get up in the morning, maybe last thing at night. as you sit on the side of the bed. Although it does interrupt your sleep some, if you're used to having a cigarette just before you go to bed, then some people say, well, it relaxes me enough that I can go to sleep. Though I will tell you, it does, being a sleep specialist, it does disrupt your first part of your night's sleep because of the stimulant effect. So you may think it's helping you, but once again, there are reasons that your sleep will consolidate and improve after a period of withdrawal. Now remember I said when you first stop completely and have some withdrawal, your sleep may be disrupted for a while, but that will improve and you'll consolidate your sleep and you'll sleep better than you have hopefully in many, many years. So how many times have you actually taken a cigarette and put it to your mouth and down if you're a 1-pack-a-day smoker? Well, the answer is 70,000 times in a year. 70,000 times. Now let me tell you about the rule of 7 or 70 and 70,000 and so on. There are some 69 or 70 identified chemicals in a cigarette that are carcinogens, that in some situation or concentration will cause cancer. So let me assure you that doing this 70,000 times, and there's 70 chemicals in there, and so most smokers have tried to quit at least 7 times. So we say the rule of sevens, is very strong. But just think what it'll take to break this habit. Now, let me say right away that part of your cessation is to occupy your hands. Sometimes some of you need that very, very dramatically. And so we substitute even straws, taking a large straw, plastic straw, and cutting it up into the length of 2 or 3 cigarettes and putting it in the pack and taking a few cigarettes out is a good strategy for starting to decrease the number of cigarettes you smoke per day. And we actually suggest you take that cigarette and handle it. That straw that is a simulated cigarette, and handle it. Put it in your hand, and even if you have to, put it to your mouth. And sometimes, if you'll do that for 3 to 4 minutes, the urge, that's the average time that you'll have an urge for a cigarette, 3 to no more than 5 minutes, usually 3 to 4 minutes max, it will pass. So if you can do something for a short period of time, the urge, the tremendous urge, will pass. Okay, so these are simple things, but remember, as we try to break the habit of this. Now, what about, let's take one at a time, let's go to that first morning, when you first get up. Well, now you need to get up, get out of bed, go right to your shower, or go to light exercise and eat something fairly quickly. Actually putting something in your mouth, eating something, even a small snack. It may not be your full breakfast, but eating something, a little snack food early in the morning, going right to your shower, getting dressed, delaying. Just having a delay in the time you have that first cigarette makes it easier 30 to 45 minutes later for you to resist the secondary urge you'll get within an hour. Within an hour, you'll have another urge that'll last, again, 3 to 4 minutes, 5 max, but usually about 3 to 4, and you can withstand it easier. So you're going to begin to take that urge first thing in the morning and do some things to delay. And delay is important, not just stop. You may go ahead and have a cigarette at 9 a.m., but you had been having one at 6:30 and one again at 7:30 and then 8:30 to 9. And now it's 9 a.m. before you have one. Very important. That is success. Even though you had one, that's success. This is how we're going to talk about how you decline and get rid of this habit, this addiction and habituation. You're both habituated and addicted. Both. Your habits and the addiction, the chemical addiction, both part of why you smoke. So here, let's just do a quick review. The decline is dramatic in the number of smokers since 65 in the U.S., and particularly in states like Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, but it's still above the national average in those 3 states by a little bit. Okay, number 2, there are certain populations that tend to have a high percent, maybe 25 to 50%. People who have mental health and are under stress, people in very stressful jobs, very stressful occupations, men out in the Gulf on rigs, oil rigs and so on, most smoke and so on. So occupation, concentration geographically and so on, we still see that it's more than the national average. We do know that close to 500,000 people will die from the effects of cigarette smoking every year. So the lower the percentage, the better. We know that improvement comes quickly. And we know that if you will make a list of the times that you smoke naturally that are part of your day, and then plan around that, that you will be successful. Your chances for success will be greatly, greatly increased. So let's stop for now and send us an email and tell us you've watched session number 1. And if you'd like to request materials from us to help you, like schedules, how to decline, how to decrease your cigarettes over a period of time, things we'll cover in some of the former series, we'll go ahead and get some packages to you to help you as you watch this video series. Thank you from the American Pulmonary Medicine Institute and its entire board of directors. Here's to your health.